This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A warm welcome to a very beautiful morning here at and beyond Ngala. As you can see now, there's quite a few of these dead, or not dead trees, but these marula trees that have all lost their leaves. And just look at the sunrise behind it. The array of colors, it's so beautiful. Like, it starts off as this darker color and then it goes into a bit of an orange and then like this lighter yellow as it fades off into a bit of white. It is so beautiful. You can even hear some of the hornbills calling in the distance. You might even hear some of the franklins as well, as they are all waking up early this morning. So I'm Nikki here at Beyond Ngala, and with me on the camera is Owen. So what we're going to hopefully do, let's just have another look at this beautiful sunrise. I'd love to share the plan for this morning. So because it's early part of the morning, we might still be looking out for hopefully some of the predators, like could be a chance of leopard, there's a chance of lions, like some of the smaller animals like caracal, civet. If we do see a civet or a caracal, I'll be very, very happy. There's also a chance, but in the meantime, we just want to welcome everyone aboard to this virtual live safari here in the African bush. So just try and listen out. Like, what I want to do now is I'm going to try and be as quiet as possible, but I want you to just take in this little sunrise as well as the noises that you can hear around it. You might even see in the distance, just behind that big marula tree and this apple leaf, like right in front of us, the sun might start to rise soon. You can see the mountains in the distance. So that's on our eastern side from where we are now. Now, we're hoping to go into that area this morning and see if there's any chance that there could have been a pride or maybe wild dogs or anything that have moved into the reserve from that direction. But I think for now, I'm just going to sit here and listen out to hear if there's any call or any sounds this morning.
That sounds gorgeous, and that sunrise must have been spectacular too. We have a steenbok on quarantine, which is very nice because you know that Tingana did take the other steenbok. Well, actually, they're now, well, there were 3 because there's still 2 on quarantine. My name is Trishal, and I've got Niels on camera this morning, and it is a cold morning, as it has been the last few. 6 degrees Celsius or 43 degrees Fahrenheit, and I have many, many layers. Unlike our steenbok here. But steenbok does have different layers of fur, like most mammals, apart from us, where we're just hairy. Or at least some of us. So it actually is, you can see it looks a little extra fluffy, especially around the neck or where you see the bend or the curve in the body as it bends. There we go. It almost looks as if it's been ruffled up, and that's because it's been piloerecting, i.e. been lifting up its fur so it can trap some extra air and actually have another layer of insulation. Striped horse, you'd like to know if any of the plants are poisonous to the animals. They certainly are. Like, for example, there's a tambuti tree. Steenbok would not be eating that. It's far too tall. But a tambuti actually produces a latex that is quite toxic. Apart from that, many trees around, even the normal trees that we see animals browsing on, when conditions are quite bad and very, very dry, they can release a lot of tannins in their leaves as a defense. And if animals eat too many leaves that are tannin-y, they can have digestive issues. And even though they may feel full, they're actually not absorbing too much nutrients, and a lot of animals can die that way. I remember about 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, there was a nyala and maybe a bushbuck that had actually died, and without any external injuries or anything like that, and it was assumed that that may actually be the issue.
Good morning, everyone. Safari Live. This is Dumi from and Beyond Pin of behind the camera. You have Marcel. He's the one doing all this. We have just look at him. Lioness. She was just rolling. Wow. We're trying to get a better view from there. We'll move slightly forward and see if we can get a better. She's just lie down now. She's a beautiful lioness. She's just calling. I think she's trying to communicate with the other, the rest of the pride. She's one of the lioness with the small calves, I reckon. The pride at the moment. Wow, look how beautiful the place. She chosen a good. Yes.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name is Steve, and I'm joined this morning by BK on camera. We do apologize about any technical difficulties you might have received that side, but don't worry, you're with us, and we are very excited to have you on board. Welcome. I hope you've got your coffee and your teas and your blankets and whatever it is that you need. We are going to check around the dam cam. We had some reports from one of the guys in the lodge that Shadulu was around the dam cam at 9. So we're just going to have a look for some tracks. See if there's any tracks going. Zebras are moving in and out every day, it seems now. I'm sure you've been informed by all the other wonderful people about the fact that we are live. We'd love to hear from you. Send through questions and comments. Hashtag Wild Earth or YouTube chat stream or at FC on Twitch. Either platform. This is my favorite time of day, when we check the canvas on the ground to see who has walked. Well, there we go. We've got some wonderful little fellows over here. Are you right there, Biggs? Hello, Amanda. Good morning. Amanda, 10 years old. You want to know what is my favorite thing about being a guide? Well, Amanda, it's wonderful being out in fresh air. It's wonderful being able to find animals every day and be surrounded by nature. I know a lot of my friends work in corporate world. They work in the city. They catch trains to work. Sit at an office job. Right here, Amanda, this is my office. This is my desk. And this job in particular, I can talk about whatever I want to. So I could talk about impala all morning, or I could talk about the vegetation impala are feeding on. So a guide, you get to spend time in nature. You get to surround yourself and immerse yourself in all of this. And I've seen some pretty cool things along the way, I'm not going to lie. I mean, yesterday I saw honey badger twice, the day before honey badger as well. So those are my favorite animals. And then last night I got to spend 2 hours with little leopard cubs. mean, that's pretty cool, isn't it? So the list goes on and on. Oh, that impala's got something stuck on its foot. What's going on, fella? That happens to me sometimes, where I get my leg caught in a little buffalo thorn bush. He's got a bit of a stomp happening. That impala, it was a little male born in November. Small little groups of impalas have been out in the open area for the evening. They're looking very relaxed, which means that I don't think Shadulu's given them a hard time. But nonetheless, I'm going to go and check down the road and see if there's any tracks. Beautiful, fresh morning air. Shall we continue, Beaks? There we go. BK is on it. He wants to show you something that's happening. And I'm going to allow you all to just take a moment, take a deep breath, and just breathe. Anna Marie says she can almost smell the fresh air. Well, Anna Marie, it is wonderfully fresh this morning. It's not that cold. It might also be because I've got a hot water bottle attached to my stomach. As soon as we start moving, we'll probably notice the difference. Good morning, everybody, again. This is one of my favorite things about being a guide. Go back to that discussion. Watching the sunrise and the sunset every day. And the silent moments around them. Okay, We're going to carry on. We've got some work to do. We can't just sit around here all day watching the sun. Good. We're going to carry on. We're going to have to wait when he gets out to fully understand that question. In Tswalu, where it's very cold, yes, animals will spend a lot more time underground, not coming out. But it doesn't get that cold here. Most of our animals are out and about at night and actually go into burrows as it starts getting light. But then animals such as warthog and mongooses and probably a lot of the birds, well, the birds don't really have anywhere to go. They're just perched in the trees. But you could already probably hear by the ambient there that there's a lot of birds calling. The warthogs sometimes take a bit of time. But most of the other animals are out and about. They don't really have anywhere to go. Where you see them is where they probably were sleeping or where they stood up. And the hyena cubs take a bit of time in the morning because they are hiding inside the burrows. But everyone else is out and about and ready for the morning.
They certainly would be hiding in the burrow. I thought we could visit them, but at this time it would be useless. So maybe a little bit later we can go out and check out the den. I was actually meant to go on Twin Dams Road, but then I passed the road that leads to Treehouse Dam, and I thought, let's just have a look, just in case. Oh, this is quite special. Not much going on, but very pretty. Ooh. I'm not sure if you can actually see it, but there's this kind of fog in a layer on top of the water. Gorgeous. It is a very peaceful morning out here. We have a black-spit lapwing doing its dam patrol. What can I find? What can I find for breakfast? Any tiny invertebrates there? Ooh. When I stepped in that water, it reminded me of Dylan stepping in the water. Oh, off it goes. Closo, you'd like to know if we have frogs in this dam? There would be frogs around. You occasionally see them. I mean, generally they'll need a lot of moisture, and they'll come to a water source, especially when they're mating and they want to lay eggs. We get really cool foam nest frogs in the summer that come and make this glorious foam kind of ball. And they mate within that ball, and the eggs drop from there into the water. We get some terrapins in here. We've had a hippo in here. Waterbirds, and obviously we get the large mammals also coming to have a drink. We've had Tandy drinking here a couple of weeks back. Elephants as well. Any water source is a great spot to start at or to stop at. As you know, Steve likes to sit and kind of just wait and watch a water hole, which is a really good idea. So many animals will come down. And if you're just kind of here waiting, then they don't notice you very much, and I like that. I heard a screech behind us a little bit earlier, and I suspect that there may be some elephants around. River, that's a really excellent question. You'd like to know if the bird's legs are so long because it is a water bird. It is one of the adaptations to living near and in water, because that means that your feathers are not getting all wet constantly, and you have the advantage of height. But that's not to say that other birds' legs are not long. For example, an owl's legs are quite long, but you don't get to see them because they're covered by the body and the feathers a lot of the time. So it's almost as if these legs are longer and more exposed. And that means that they can wade through water quite easily. It also means that they can move. So as they walk along the water's edge, they can move the water about and disturb the sand without getting their feathers soaking wet. And by disturbing the sand, they're actually loosening small little invertebrates that they'd want to eat. Those legs would be scaly, without feathers on it. Oh, Sophie, that is a really, really good question. You'd like to know if there's a reason that birds' beaks have different colors. I don't know. I mean, there should be a reason, but I don't know what the reason is. Generally, colors on animals act as signaling. So they can act as signaling, as in to communicate with other animals of their own species and other species. It can be an example of camouflage. Perhaps you have a black head, so you want your beak to be black so that you're extra camouflaged. But I don't know if there's a particular reason why you could have a woodland kingfisher who has no red on it, but the beak has some red. That's an excellent question. I'm going to do some research on that, Sophie. Thank you very much.
You do your research, Trish. No red feathers in woodland kingfisher. The only birds I know of that have got really red feathers are the turacos. And that is actually a pigment that they generate from their diet. So, we've got other birds that have no red feathers either. These guinea fowl are enjoying a little morning sunrise at the watering hole. I'm looking a little bit sleepy. I think they've had an early morning drink and they've come down to a bit of grooming, preening. They're just sitting here, Fuetela watering hole. No sign of Shadulu's tracks at the moment. Hyenas up and down, always up and down. Excuse me. Often judged by animals' behavior, whether they've seen a predator or not, and these guys don't seem to have seen anything. Very relaxed. Faith, yes, well, guinea fowls, they are quite prolific breeders. You know, you get a pair that will pair off, and then suddenly 15, 18 new chicks join, maybe less, 12. Suddenly the flock goes from 2 to an entire herd of them, or flock. Once those youngsters reach maturity, we'll next season pair off again and start the process. So hanging out in numbers is actually beneficial to them for their survival. Probably just hear the noises of a hippo in the early morning. There's a grebe at the back, pumping away his legs. So peaceful. There's not a breath of air this morning. It's wonderful, wonderful start to the day. Polar bear, yes, they are essentially monogamous for at least the season. About 51% of birds, I believe, are monogamous. But that doesn't mean that they pair for life. Generally, your large birds, storks, cranes, and eagles will pair for life. But many of the smaller birds will pair for a season, a mating season. They might pair for the following season. But generally, that requires the male doing something that encourages the female to choose him once again, be it assistance with the nest or a nuptial gift in the form of food or assistance in rearing the chicks. He's got to earn his stripes, and if he's not very good at providing, she'll boot him to the curb and choose another. But guinea fowl are what we call precocial, so their eggs hatch and the youngsters follow the adults around very quickly, so there's not an enormous amount of parental care required, but 2 adults looking around are far better than just 1. Okay, well, we're going to continue. We've got some tracking to do to ascertain where has this female leopard gone. Obviously, they don't always walk on the roads. Hyenas seem to cover an enormous amount of area on the road, so littered with tracks here of the hyenas. Quite often pick out a female leopard in there quite easily. Let's see if maybe she went up through the middle. I think coming up this way. So we're going to take a right now, head back up to quarantine, see if we can find any trace of what we think is Shidulu.
We are on a little bit of a mission this morning, so we haven't seen any fresh tracks of any of the animals that we mentioned this morning. However, there is a waterhole that's not too far away from where we are now, and we want to go past there and see if there's any signs maybe around the water. Sometimes at night animals go and drink. It could be early in the morning, we just don't know. So we're not too far away. We're going to actually head straight all the way there and see what we can find this morning. Now, apparently there were some reports of a hyena going or calling quite a bit during the evening near one of the camps. So Barney and Richard and Ernie are heading straight in that direction to go and see if there might be anything this morning. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We don't know yet. We'll probably find out from them. But while they're heading in that direction, we decided to come over to the eastern side of the reserve to come and scan these open areas, and then of course this section here all the way down to that waterhole. So we don't know what we're going to find. I'm hoping there's a beautiful tree right in front of us. So see, as you go past, you might even see there's like a horizontal branch. I'm carefully scanning out as we're driving, because you never know, maybe a possible sneaky leopard up in the tree. Just have a look at that. That would almost be like the ideal spot for a leopard to lie down in. Now that tree is referred to as a jackalberry tree. Can't really see any of the fruits yet, but where the name comes from is it has these little green fruits, and often when it's like ripe and it falls to the ground, and the jackals will go and they'll pick them up and actually eat them, and hence where the tree got its name from. But a beautiful tree, like quite rough bark. Look at the leaves, very wavy leaves, a bit dark at the top, lights at the bottom. But I think for now, it is a beautiful tree. Let's carry on and hopefully see what we can get at that waterhole. I'm also thinking chance of possibly seeing hippos as well. Dig with me, my absolute favorite animal has to be a zebra. I don't know, like since I was a young boy, it's just always been my absolute favorite. And I think the reasons being for it is just the stripe pattern. Like every single zebra has a different stripe pattern, and it doesn't matter like which individual you might be looking at, from certain angles almost looks like a completely different individual. So, and of course how that black and white runs from the neck into the mane, and that the mane is the same height from between the ears to the back of the shoulder blades. Hopefully we can find a zebra this morning and I'll be able to show you. Now we are, so just to give you an idea, so there are three major vegetation zones within this beautiful area. There might be a lot more smaller ones, but the major ones are within this. So this whole area is referred to as savanna, so the savanna biome, but within it you get different plant communities. And it's really nice to know the different plant communities as well as the soil. Oh, there's actually some waterbuck right in front of us. There's a little one. Oh, you know what? Let's move forward a bit. We might get them in this gap. I'm going to try. It is hard to see them because of the area that they're in. But hopefully if I stop here, we'll be able to hold on. There's a gap coming up here, I'm sure. I think it's early in the morning. They don't want to be seen on the camera. There we go. Like right here. The view might not be the greatest, but you will see how well they do blend into this type of environment. So I think from there a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. You can just see that white ring around the bum. Now, where the name waterbuck comes from is these antelope do enjoy areas near the water, and of course they are always seen or mostly seen around the water, hence the name the waterbuck. There might be another glimpse of them if they do carry on moving or the way they are moving, and now we might try and get another glimpse in the front here. But for now, I think it's hard to see them. It's a hard view. So we'll try again. If we can get another glimpse, we'll definitely try give it another go. But what I want to say is, so maybe there's with the different vegetation types, and even knowing the soil, is like, here we go. We're going to actually get a glimpse there. We're just going to try and adjust quickly so everyone can see it. So there they're moving. There's a youngster just left of that, standing. But if you look at them, look at how fluffy they are in comparison to most of the antelope we do see, like for example the impala. If you compare it against even the nyala, you'll notice that this one's coat looks like almost similar to that of a deer in some ways, but still part of the antelope family. But while we're looking at them here, so just to finish that thought, so often, depending on the type of rock or the rock formation or the soil that you find within this area, determines the vegetation. The vegetation in turn then determines what antelope, birds, and other species would then occur within an area. So it's really important, by knowing the area and also the type of habitat, you'll be able to say which animals are more likely to be there than others. So one thing that really stands out with the waterbuck for me is often the nose. Now if you look at the nose, you'll notice there's a white ring around that black part of the nose. Now if we can get another glimpse of it, I really would like to show you, but it often resembles the shape of a heart if you look at it from the front. So let's see if we can get another glimpse. I think there's one there. It'll be hard to see, but let's see if we can see that heart on the front of the nose. But you can see that little one, as it like lifted up his head, there was quite a bit of grass in its mouth. So I'm sure they probably just found a nice patch of grass there. And they'll probably feed off that for the next little while before they eventually start heading to the water as it warms up. Now, the direction they are moving is actually the direction of that water hole. So that's why it's often a sign, especially in a survival situation, if you had to find, or if you had to know where water is, sometimes knowing what animals are very water dependent, you can often follow them and they'll lead you towards water. But I think for now, with these water buck, they are moving off in that direction. So I think let us head down in this direction, and I would love to see if there's anything near that water hole.
It's a magnificent morning in the bush today. Very, very cold and very still as well. So it's a perfect time to stop at a waterhole just like this and listen out for any sounds that might be traveling on the wind. Absolutely glassy. That is beautiful. So beautiful. Right, good morning everyone from wherever you are, maybe good evening. I'm Michael Anderson, behind the camera is Gert, and we are here at Eco-Training Pridelands Conservancy. We've been out since about 5:30 this morning, just driving around, heard lions far in the distance, thought we might get lucky enough to find them again, but it sounds like they're beyond our boundaries. But we know there was a buffalo herd found on Pridelands yesterday evening, quite a big herd, so those lions might follow them. But for now we're just waiting here. Actually, Gert's sunning himself to try and warm up whilst we just listen to see if we hear any animal calls or alarms. I don't think anything is very active this morning because it's very, very cold. I think it was about 4 degrees this morning when we left the camp. I think it dropped to 0 degrees last night. It was crazy cold. Absolutely stunning. So the soft light is just touching the tops of the trees, and so we're probably going to find lots of birds and other animals starting to perch as high as possible to try and warm up. Goodness gracious me. There's a question about what prevents blood, I think it was, from freezing in this cold weather. That is a great question. And what prevents it? I mean, is it that it's inside of our bodies? So most animals are actually endothermic, which just means they create their own heat by metabolizing the food, by breaking down the food they've eaten. And, our bodies, mammals' bodies, generally stay at a temperature of about 37 degrees optimally. And so that's much too warm for it to freeze. But, that's what frostbite is. If you go somewhere very, very cold, like the Arctic or on top of some mountain ranges where there's these cold icy winds, and you leave any part of your body exposed, your blood can freeze and your skin cells and everything freezes, and you get what's called frostbite, where your extremities, your fingertips and things turn black because all the blood is frozen and it doesn't want to circulate. But it's not that cold here, luckily. It's very uncomfortably cold for most animals during the night. And then other animals that are not endothermic, that don't create their own body heat, they will actually just go and curl up somewhere underground or in a burrow or in a thick clump of bush and just stay very still. Oh, did you see that? That was a spur fowl that almost tried to do a water wrong. Spur fowls are not water birds, so that was very interesting. I'm sure it's probably feeling very silly right now. It's got wet feet. I can't imagine anything worse than having wet feet in this cold morning. Yeah, so snakes and reptiles and other things, their blood would freeze if they were out in the open. But they just hide and they don't move until it's warm enough. And then they slowly crawl out onto hot, sunny places, like rocks. And then they warm themselves up until they get to the right temperature. So luckily, our blood's not going to freeze. It's very, very quiet, actually. On a morning like this, you should be able to hear something like a lion calling from more than 8 kilometers away, because it's just that cold and still, and the sound reverberates through the air particles. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to sit here and enjoy watching these little wax bulls warming themselves up in the sun.
Do you think we feel like these vervet monkeys this morning? You see how they've moved up into the tree and now just getting a little bit of sunlight. You can see these two are grooming each other. That one is like enjoying it so much, getting a bit of a back scratch maybe under the elbow. Just trying to see if there's any possibly lice or anything to go. But look at how carefully that one that is scanning for any parasites, how it's moving the hair like just to expose the skin. You can see the other one's enjoying it so much, like I think it's going to move all the way towards that back area and towards the tail. But I'm due watching vervet monkeys. Vervet monkeys and baboons are probably the best to watch because they're always, especially the youngsters, as soon as they start moving, it always looks like they're always up to a bit of mischief. Now there's a few in this tree, like from the two that we're seeing there. There's one up there, and I think another one just right, and all the way up to the top of the tree. You'll see the very top, there's one right there. Imagine the vantage point they would have from there. Oh, little scratch. Because I can just imagine if there had to be any predator that had to move, or even a bird of prey that had to like come through this area, they'll immediately be able to spot it from that height and then run into like either thick cover, or if there's a predator around, the alarm call to warn all the other animals about it. But for them, just enjoying that sun this morning, I'm sure if there were anything, we would have known about them because they have very good eyesight. You can see these with that massive tree, a lot of green, and then these little white spots in between. Charles, with that question, I mean, it's a very interesting question. I'm sure with most animals, they'll probably be able to have the same sense of taste as humans, but I'm not too sure, like, to what extent, though. Like, I'll try and read up a little bit more about it. And hopefully with this afternoon's drive we'll be able to share more about it, but I'm not too sure. I'm like with vervet monkeys, I do know though that often, so let's say for us, most of the things that they eat we can eat. With baboons it's a little bit different. So I think with particularly with vervet monkeys, there has to be something that's very similar in comparison to that of how we would taste things. Because you'll see, like for most of us, we do love something that's quite nice and sweet, and the same with these vervet monkeys. If there's an opportunity to tuck into a little bit of honey, or the odd occasion of spotting a delicious cake somewhere, they'll often take the chance. Icky, I'm not too, like with the vervet monkeys, like often what you can see is if there's a dominant male within that little group, that he's often a lot bigger, and then often if you then look at more the private sections, you'll see that the big dominant male would have like quite a bright blue number plate, as one of the trackers would often refer to it. But so with the vervet monkeys, you'll normally see like this is a big dominant vervet monkey, and you'll often see with this behavior as well. As soon as there's any of the youngsters that are out of place, you'll immediately run towards them and put them back into their place. So normally by behavior and often by the size. With the females, I'm not too sure. Like I've tried to see if I can establish and see if there's any form of hierarchy, but it's not something that you can just noticeably like pick up. It's more on the male side, especially with vervet monkeys, where you can pick it up. With baboons, it's slightly different, where it's almost like a collection. There's a group of dominant males that would often lead the troop. The females, they don't really have a very distinctive hierarchy as in comparison to that of the males. So it looks like the vervet monkey's just put something in its mouth. And that tree that it's on is, well, it's actually that jackalberry tree. And I wonder if there's maybe some fruits. Oh, there it is. There's the fruit we were talking about. So that's the one that the jackals often, as soon as it falls to the ground, will feed on, and hence the name the jackalberry tree. You can see this vervet monkey's just enjoying a nice breakfast while sitting in the sun and warming up. Have a look at how it's maneuvering in its hands, almost like cleaning it, like moving the skin a little bit to get to the inside. But in comparison to most of the trees around, you'll notice this one is a considerable amount bigger than all the others. And so that's probably also one of the reasons the vervet monkeys decided to move up into this tree. So with the vervet monkeys, I do remember reading up about it a while ago. I think it was somewhere around 12, 13 years. But I just want to go and double check. I'm not too sure. I remember reading it a while ago, but I'll have to just go and double check and see how old they do get, especially here in the wild. So now it's time for, I don't know if that's probably the mum of this youngster. So the mum earlier groomed the youngster, and now it's the youngster's turn to groom the mum. And often with the vervet monkeys, you can see that as soon as there's a youngster around, that they will always be quite close to the mum, especially until they get to around about 2 years, maybe a little bit more. They're always around the mum, and after that they'll start. It depends. If it's a male, they might still be within this little family group, but eventually from there on, as they become more dominant, they'll probably move off and find some, like another group, and hopefully become the more dominant male there. But for now, I think for now he's not too worried about any dominance, just worrying about finding breakfast.
Oh, I love a jackalberry tree. I really, really do. One of my favorite trees. In fact, you know how hard that is for me to do. First favorite has to be the Balanites, torchwood. In fact, that defeats the purpose of the word favorite. One of my favorites, that's better. And the other is the jackalberry. See what has made these Franklin so upset. At this time of the day, though. Oh, it's even got the impala's attention. At this time, they're all kind of getting breakfast and grooming and things, so there might be the occasional spat, but always a good idea to pay attention. Well, that's what's quite nice to sit with these impala. They look stunning in the sunlight. Because if they thought that the Franklin was serious about something, or maybe they smelled or heard or saw something, they would be alarming. And all of them, almost like an alarm symphony. It's one of the things I'd love to hear. When a predator walks past a herd of impala, just psh, 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 as each alarm has the... So Shiduda was found, or seen on the dam cam last night. Steve was following up. It seems that her tracks have crossed west, but he will give you a better update on that. And perhaps now that we can go into Simbambili, we may be lucky. Impala are such beautiful antelope. Angie, especially since we're talking, or that they've been rutting, and some of them will be actually pregnant. She'd like to know, what is the gestation period of an impala? Well, impalas, like most antelopes, have a similar gestation, so it's about 8 to 9 months. In fact, I always remember it as very similar to us, or at least for oh no, man, I'm thinking about a kudu. Impala's gestation period is short. It's about 6 to 7 months, and that's why they'd be mating in this May-June time, and then June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and that's when we'll get our lambs. So you're looking at 6 to 7 months. Kudu, 9 months. Ooh, wow, what a long question. Okay. Cody, you would like to know if animals continue to ruminate and feed in order to keep themselves warm. So you were chatting earlier about blood and blood freezing, or rather not freezing, and how that has to do with the metabolism, and then obviously how this links up with digestion and digestive systems. They'll keep on eating, not as a way to keep the digestive system going, but eating is the fuel. So without eating and then getting ATP, which is what is basically your cell's fuel, without getting that, you can't keep your metabolism, which would then mean that you would not be able to keep up your body temperature, particularly in mammals, because it is absolutely essential that we maintain our body temperature, otherwise we experience hypothermia. We become so cold that our enzymes and proteins can't function. And proteins are the basis of living things. In fact, the first, I don't even know if you can call them organisms, but the first things to ever exist that were lifelike, or the first building blocks, would have been proteins. So it's very important that we maintain the temperature for those to keep on working. So feeding means that we can constantly supply ourselves with that ATP, which is the energy that we need for our cells to work. ATP synthesis in the body has to be one of the more difficult things to wrap my head around, or to actually know every single little bit of the process. And considering we learn about ATP cycles in high school biology, and it may sound familiar to many of you, but it's a very difficult thing to actually get a great understanding of, because there's so many little cycles within that. And it reminds me of just how complex an animal is. Because you start with a piece of food, some glucose, and there's these constant tiny reactions that are happening for them to be converted, for that food to be converted into a currency that our cells can actually use. Very, very interesting. It just makes me appreciate the animals even more to know how complex they are. They're a little bit alerted by something, but not terribly so. See, the one male still got a head down, feeding. Do you know, sometimes you can be watching a scene like this. How many times have we watched leopards stalking herds of impala? Not very closely, not close enough to pounce, but stalking them, and they're still busy eating and no alarming. We've seen that. So a scene like this, a predator can just burst out of the bushes. You never know. Stasia, you'd like to know if males and females groom each other separately. They kind of groom in a reciprocal manner, so they allo-groom. I groom you, you groom me. And they don't usually separate by sex. But generally, once the rutting season is over, they're back in these mixed herds. So that's when you have maybe a male will groom a female, maybe a female groom the male. But within the rutting season, you have these bachelor herds, or you have territorial males, and then the smaller males that are not able to mate, they form these bachelor herds, and then the females form these breeding herds of themselves and their youngsters. Now, impalas are particularly mixed. Their herds are quite mixed, except for that rutting period. So perhaps the bonds that they create during the time when there's rutting, so they're more used to being around their female counterparts, and they're more used to being around their youngsters, that they can appear to groom mostly amongst their own sexes. But it's not a rule. I know exactly what you mean, though, because I usually will see females grooming other females and males grooming other males. But most of the time I actually find the allo grooming more with females. This is just my own observation. But there isn't really a rule, or nor should there be any reason that they stick to that. Like I said, it might just be a result of the changes in the herd as the year goes along. I'm quite close to Chitwa, and I thought, let me go check it out and see if maybe Sibui's cubs are still around.
Good morning from another splendid day out here at Tswalu Kalahari. Jandre and Dylan, we're going to be taking on this journey with us, and it's just fantastic as always seeing you, or you seeing us rather, us seeing you through the camera. But it is just such a pleasure having you with us. We're going to be heading up to the meerkat shortly, but while we're here, we've got old Sheldon, who I'm still determined I'm going to find their nest for you. But he's floating over there. It's a gorgeously warm morning this morning. The weather's very calm. You can see hardly a ripple on the water. But while we've got him there, remember I jumped in here the other day just to see, well, what is it that they're feeling and experiencing? And that water was very cold. Like I say, there are other words to describe it, but let's stick with very. So then I was like, okay, well, how do they do this? How do these ducks sit in water at those kind of temperatures? And if you look at seagulls, it's sitting around on ice floes and all sorts of things. So one of the viewers sent me a fantastic article from a bird watching article. It was really, really interesting. And in a nutshell, this is what happens. Is that close enough, Jandre? You good? So it's called countercurrent heat exchange, and there's actually dolphins do it. There's a whole lot of other organisms that use this strategy, but it's pretty cool. So there's a horrible diagram of a duck's leg, and this is all taken. I've copied this from the article, so credit is due where it's due. But basically, you've got a high temperature at the body, okay, 41 degrees. Then it comes out into the top leg at 32. 15, 8, and 0 to 5 degrees. But what happens here is you got your artery coming out, which is the red, which is body temperature, okay? Then it comes down towards the feet, and you've got this shunt. So most of the warm blood actually doesn't get right into the webbing itself. There is some that goes through, but most of it actually doesn't. It goes straight back into the vein that runs directly alongside this artery. So you get this warm blood coming out, and as this cold blood from the feet goes up, it actually slowly starts warming up already on its way up, because it's sitting right against this artery. And by the time it actually gets back to the body, it's only 2 or 3 degrees at 32 degrees centigrade. It's only a few degrees lower than the actual body temperature of the bird. So that is insanely cool. And now I've got a really good understanding. Now I don't feel so bad for old Sheldon sitting there. He can swim around in cold water, unlike us. So I need to find a way of replicating this next time I go swimming in water like this. So that's called counter-current heat exchange. Anyway, that's just a basic thing. But yeah, so, and the other thing is I also really appreciate, when we're out on drives, sometimes we don't have good signal. We can't just check things up on the spur of the moment. And, we're not walking encyclopedias. So it's always fun, and I really appreciate it. When people send me stuff through, it's just nice to see that you actually are interested and you're engaged in what we're talking about out here. So, but what a morning. This is the warmest morning it's been literally for weeks. It's probably now, we're probably sitting on 8-9 degrees or something, but it's going to be a nice warm day today. It'll pick up quickly. So let's head on to these meerkats and see if we can get those pups a go.
It sounds like it is a lot warmer where Dylan is now than compared to a few days ago, where it actually looked like it was snowing. But here it's, I think, a little bit warmer than 7 or 8 or 9 degrees. So we're having a look at this beautiful waterhole, and right in the middle there's quite a few hippos there we can see. I just want to try and count how many there are. I think there's 1, 2, 3, possibly 4. But I think what sometimes makes it difficult with hippos is if they do go under the water, they might stay up or down as long as 6 minutes before they eventually have to come back up and breathe again. See, there's more movement here. Now with hippos in general, and whenever it starts getting light again, they start moving to the waters in the evening. Before I carry on my thought, I just want to point out there's actually 2 hyenas on the opposite side of this waterhole moving. So, and if we move, you see there's a dead stump right over my head on the side of the waterhole. So just if we move to there, I think we'll be able to catch these hyena. Okay, so from there on, if you zoom into the gap just at the back of this, you'll see it looks like a brown termite mound or something right there. So if you keep it there, I think the hyena will move into the screen shortly. So just keep it there. So it's moving from the right to the left. So let's see if the viewers can see this. So pretty soon this hyena is going to move in. There we go. So with the hippos, they're very similar behavior to that of the hyenas, where they tend to move mainly at night, and early in the morning the hippos will move back into the water, and this is where they rest up for the majority of the day before they move out again. Same with hyenas, they mainly move in the evening, but there is a good chance that if it's still early part of the morning and it's nice and cool, they will be moving around. So there's actually been there's been 3-4 hyenas that have been moving past this waterhole over the last 5 to 10 minutes. Joshua, I think with the hippos in general, they have quite a thick layer of fat that helps to isolate them, or insulate them, within the water. But also the other thing is the way that they could be lying down in the water. So when we see them like that, they're not necessarily standing, they are lying down, and they almost like tuck their legs in underneath them, and that would also probably help them to keep a bit of the heat. But normally that very thick skin, there is a bit of fat around it, so it just helps to insulate them. And also with a waterhole like this, it tends to be a little bit warmer sometimes than like being out of the water. But there's actually, just want to have a look, you'll see it looks like there's some birds. The oxpeckers on the back of this hippo. Tara, so mainly they'll lie down and then they'll rest their heads on top of each other's backs. They could do it while standing up. I have seen that before, but mainly like the ones that we see now, sometimes if there's quite a few of them in the spot, they'll lie down with their heads on top of each other's backs, and then you can just see them like now and again moving probably the ears, but mainly while they lie down. But what I said, so those oxpeckers are sitting on the back there, and they're probably looking out for any ticks. So even a hippo would have ticks, because as it's moving through this thick bush in order to find some lush green grass, it can wander as far as 10 kilometers away from the water, and eventually when they come back into the water, you can imagine there could be some ticks. Now this time of the year, there's not a lot of ticks around. I think there's only one or two. They normally, when it's really cold, you don't find as many as in the summertime, but there is still a chance they might pick up some ticks, and then those oxpeckers will go and actually like pick those ticks off the hippos. But just a beautiful scene this morning.
Welcome back, everybody, and well, we are on Djuma, and we found some monkeys. Monkeys up in the tree, and monkeys also have issues with ticks and fleas. But what's cool about monkeys and baboons is that ticks and fleas become a very social sort of thing for them. You can kind of think about it as being gangsters or a prison gang, whereby lower ranking individuals will do favors for higher ranking individuals with regards to grooming, in order for them to look after them when times are tough or when someone else is being a bit rough with them. So there's huge amounts of social order and dynamics within the monkey society. And these guys are waking up to the morning and enjoying a little bit of a sunrise. You can almost imagine them sitting there with a cup of coffee. Like us, they're quite cold in the morning. So they are going to sit and watch the sun warm them as the day begins.
Yeah, we just had a pale chanting goshawk perched close to the car. He's just flown away, but I'm really excited because they're actually starting to go into the nesting season, into the breeding season. So I can't try find too many things on nests, but we can try find too many things on nests, and it's never too many things. And he's disappeared way off into the distance over there. He's disappeared. Sorry about the radio there, my bad. He's disappeared way into the distance there, but they're going to be starting to breed now, and this pair's been hanging around a lot in this area. I'm just hoping, remember we've got meerkat pups out, we've got old Sheldon and Shelby, the shell ducks. They're going to have their little ducklings out in the next couple of weeks as well. So, and these goshawks are going to have chicks to feed. So we just anyway, I'm not trying to we'll play it down. Let's hope. I think the meerkats and the ducks and the goshawks, everyone will live happily ever after, and they'll all get on, and that's how the fairy tale ends. But let's go see if we can find these meerkat pups for you. That was an amazing sighting we had yesterday. I think it's going to be as good, if not even better, this morning. So let's amble on. It's a beautiful morning out here, yes. Trishna says she really hopes we see the pups today. And I think we're going to. I think it is so calm. There's hardly a breath of wind. I think it was down to 6 or 7 kilometers an hour, which is nothing. So it's a warm day. The sun's going to be coming over the hills probably in the next 5 minutes. It should actually be up on the site of the meerkats already. So I think we're going to be good to go this morning. Yeah, it's great that you can share this with us. So wherever you are, if you're lying tucked up in bed or sitting on a couch or flying somewhere or whatever you're doing, if you're able to join us on these safaris, and that it is just absolutely brilliant.
So we just had a visual of, or we just saw two hyenas, and they were running up in this direction. The one started calling, so what we're going to try and do is just loop around. Oh, there's actually, just going to stop like this. Might be hard to see, but if I stop here, there might be a glimpse. I'm going to try and move my head out of the way, but there's a hyena just down here on the side of the waterhole trying to, or going for a drink. Now, all three of the hyenas we saw earlier had quite big bellies. Now, I wonder if there was a kill during the evening and they would have fed off of it, and now, like on their way down, quickly have a sip of water and then head back to the den. Now, this one has been standing here, I'm sure, for quite a while, because we haven't seen this one. It was only the two others that were right here on the bank of this waterhole as they then moved off. See, it's trying to listen out for something. And I wonder if it's not just being careful. I mean, often with the waterhole, there's a chance it could be crocodiles. So maybe just carefully scanning, making sure there's nothing before it goes down for a drink. The other thing as well, the other day, the Pride was here, so the big Birmingham Pride, and they killed 2 hyenas that morning. So I think this hyena is also probably very careful, because often in the wintertime, lions tend to gather around the waterholes because they know animals need to come down to drink. So this hyena is just probably scanning. So if I'm quiet, there's another hyena on its way down to the water. I can't see it now, but once it gets a bit closer, I'll point out. But if we're quiet, you might hear the whooping of some of the hyenas in the back. We can't see this one at the moment, but there's a good chance it might just venture off. I could see 2 others moving in the tree line just behind or where we saw the other ones moving earlier. But for now, I'm just going to stay here and see if there's a chance that we can find the others coming this way, or maybe follow this one to see where they're off to.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
That would be amazing, hearing hyenas whooping. One of my favorite sounds out here. Another one of my favorites is the call of this gorgeous African fish eagle at Chitwa. I think it's recently had a kill. Can you see that there's a little feather on its talons? There, you have a good look at its talons. Oh, that dove got its attention. It's giving itself a good clean. Look at the way it uses its beak as a comb to kind of just make sure that all the barbs in the feather are perfectly aligned. Oh, look at the movement of that neck. Glorious. It's giving us quite a show. Beaks are not just adapted to the particular food that an animal is looking for, but also its feathers, the length of its feathers, and how it cleans itself. So it's a multi-purpose tool. The sunlight is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Megan, you say it's a gorgeous bird, isn't it just? You should hear the call, Megan. In fact, if you have any questions about this bird or anything else going on here at Wild Earth on the Drive, please use the hashtag Wild Earth in the YouTube chat stream and talk to us. You can hear the hornbills. I always think it sounds like they're saying, what up, 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 what up. Oh, giving all those feathers a really good clean. You would know if you've picked up a bird's feather and you... Oh, guinea fowl alarming behind us. Just listening out there. They actually were alarming a little bit earlier when we came here, so I might just check it out and see if some of them are in the trees, because that would be a great indicator that there's a predator around.
Thanks, Trish. Well, good luck. I hope you managed to catch up with Sibui's little cubs. We've found ourselves in amongst a herd of elephants, and they've just been moving, so obviously they're not in the best position for us right now. So I'm just going to reverse back so we can maybe get a better view. Just bear with us. I'm actually going to turn around here, Beaks, because there's a nice young one in the road there. Oh, this is a nice little young one. Hello. It's a nice little young one. And that's what we call a trumpet, everybody. That is one of the types of elephant communication. It's quite loud, isn't it? So I'm going to turn, Beaks. Let's get those ones. It's all about light. Get them in some wonderful light. Just going to switch off right about there. And let's just spend some time in the quiet solitude of the herd. Definitely favouring browse this time of year. Bark, leaves. There's still some grazing going on. Some of the trees are quite dense. They'll stick their noses in and grab any tall grass that hasn't been grazed. Let's move up a touch here, Beaks. Shenzi, I can't say I've ever heard an elephant sneeze, but I've heard them snoring. So with a big nose like that, the amount of dust that they get in the nose, you would think yes that they sneeze, but I can't tell you that for certain. Anyway, tell me when, Beaks. Perfect. Hello, Mama. That's okay. It's okay. Sorry about that. She just told us, okay, that's close enough, people. It's not being aggressive, just telling us. Stop right there. Still feeding, the herd still moving around. Important to understand comfort zones. These animals respond to those comfort zones, and those comfort zones can change every day. Hello, Ian. Yeah, elephants do have quite unique ears, actually. When we started doing ID kits of elephants years ago for Save the Elephants, we used to basically take a left and a right photograph of the ears, and ears get certain different cuts and different shapes to them. And so each elephant has got slightly different ears. And if you put them into an ID photograph, especially with the front of the face, left ear, right ear, we're able to develop quite an interesting ID kit. It's not very easy for many people, but if you look at those pictures a lot, you can start figuring something out. Remember, I assisted Michelle Henley and Steve Henley with some research with Save the Elephants. They're an organization that was based out at Simbavati at the time. And so we'd spend hours with the herd of elephant trying to get a photo of each ear and their face, which went into an enormous research data bank.
With elephants, I know Steve mentioned that how you can use the ears and some of the facial markings to try and identify them or make an ID kit for them. So sometimes with hyenas, what's really important is, of course, the spot pattern. Now this one here, if you notice, there's quite a bit of black around the feet, still like quite fluffy, this particular individual. So it is a young hyena. But often that spot pattern is very distinguished on them. So what we try and do is, if we can, we always try and take a side photo, or we try to get a photo from both sides of the hyena, and then like use that in order to build up a photographic ID kit. And sometimes even using it as a black and white and bringing out the black spots so you can have a look at the different patterns in order to identify them. It is hard to try and do it by taking a picture of the hyena's face as well as the ears, because if there's any tear in the ear with hyenas, in the way that they do often fight around the carcass, there's a chance that it might not be the best way of identifying them. So the spot patterns, and then of course if there's a certain feature like half the ear is missing, or there's a massive tear in both the ears, it could be used as an identifying thing, but it's not always the case. Like I think the spot pattern is probably going to be the most reliable, and of course the neck and the face, just the general shape, especially from the side. Now this one, if you notice, like right next to the ears, just behind the mouth, there's quite a bit of, it looks like old stains of blood. Now, early on, there were a lot of hyenas that were moving through, and I wonder if there wasn't a big kill or big feast during the evening. Because this one's constantly looking around. It is one of the youngsters, so I mean, it could be another clan that's moving into the area, so there's could be a bit of a territorial dispute. We're not too sure. But what we can see, though, is a big belly, bit of blood around the side of the face. So it's a good chance that these hyenas had a good meal. Came down to the water to have a drink, and now probably from here on we'll start moving on. But you can see this one is still scanning, like looking around. And that's the reason why we're still staying here, is because we want to see, okay, why is it doing this? What happened? Is there maybe something else in the area that we don't know about? And hopefully this hyena can show us. There's actually another hyena whooping. So Cassie, with the hyenas, they're very similar built to wildebeest. So you can imagine if hyenas also steal a carcass, there's a lot, like, I mean, there's, if you look at the head, the shoulders, the neck, it's quite big in comparison to the hind quarter. So if they do grab something and tear it off, they need to run with that. And having a back that's sloped backwards or down towards the shorter hind legs will help it, especially with stamina if it needs to run. And so be able to run for quite far distances. Like hyenas are, actual fact, very good hunters. In some areas, they actually run their prey down to exhaustion. And it's all like the whole body is designed like that, of course, in order when they do steal anything, to be able to run for quite far distances with that. And even if they don't, if they need to chase down something, they were really well designed. They're not a speed animal, but they do have a lot of endurance. I think what we'll do, as soon as this one moves out, we'll try and do another loop and see if there's anything in the area. But for now, I think I'll slowly just carry on.
So we've found that this cold morning, many of the animals are not very active. And here's a small group of vervet monkeys that are not so far from our camp. And they're doing just exactly what we would like to be doing right now. Sitting very nice and still in the sun to warm up. They're actually doing a bit of aloe grooming there. I don't know if you can see that the closer one is actually grooming the one that's just in between the two. Actually, the far one looks like it's falling asleep there. So it's too early, haven't had his coffee yet. Just wants to rest. So these vervet monkeys are were probably roosting in these trees overnight, and because it's so cold this morning, they are not getting on the move. Right now they just want to eat fruits and seeds, and if they can find some, many insects. They're omnivores, just like we are, for the most part. Oh, and this one looks very relaxed. Look how it's using its tail as a counterbalance. It's got its legs out, warming up those getting a tan in those hard-to-reach places. That's so funny. It looks like it's actually going to fall asleep. It's amazing how the tail is acting as a counterbalance. So it's just sort of sitting there. I always find it funny when the primates do things that we can relate to. This is exactly what we would mostly be doing if it was cold. We heard elephants not so long ago close to the dam as well. So many animals will now be taking the fact that it's starting to get a bit warmer to come and drink and sun themselves and have a bit of a nice little fun. And yeah, these vervet monkeys are doing much the same. Of course, up there in the tree, it's also very safe for them, or safer for them. So where they can spot any danger approaching. We've actually been following lion tracks most of the morning, trying to figure out where they are going. But we haven't had luck just yet. Looks like 2 lions. Can't tell which 2. It might be 2 lionesses that we saw a few days ago. They seem to be breaking off from that pride of 6 that we saw yesterday in the morning, and maybe just doing their own little mission around here. But that's exactly what these monkeys are checking. They're staying up in the trees and making sure that they stay safe from any other predators. It's not just lions, though. It can be many things. Shaduli fan has asked why oxpeckers don't feed on monkeys. That's actually a really good question. I suppose monkeys have just as many ticks and fleas as any other animal gets, but they groom themselves very well. So they usually get rid of those parasites before the oxpeckers get a chance. And also, an oxpecker it's a small bird, but to a monkey it's quite a big thing. I mean, imagine, for us, for example, if a raven or a crow tried to land on you to try and peck some things off your skin, it would be very uncomfortable and painful. So I'm sure that they don't want to have those oxpeckers trying to pluck them and poke them and scratch them. It would be much easier. Shaduli fan, I don't know if you've ever had an animal try to or a bird try to groom you. I don't know how comfortable it would be. They've got sharp little claws, and a monkey's skin is thin like ours, so it wouldn't be very nice. Remember, most of the animals that the oxpeckers land on have got tough, thick skins, like rhinos and warthogs, and most of the antelope, quite tough skins. Man, I don't know how they stay in the trees. They look like they're going to fall backwards. Joel Dole is asking if a leopard would try to hunt a monkey in a tree. Definitely. I mean, this tree is full of thorns. It's a knob thorn, so it's probably not going to be very comfortable for the leopard to climb up there. But definitely I've seen leopards chase monkeys around up and down in trees. They're very agile. I mean, even sometimes the monkeys will go and stand on the very, very edges of those thinnest branches to try and make sure the leopards can't reach them, because, of course, the weight of the leopard is much more. Those branches would break and fall to the ground. But there was an amazing video I saw a while back. I wasn't on drive that day, but when the guests came back, they showed me a video of a leopard running up the side of a very sparse tree like this one, chasing after a squirrel, and the squirrel tried to jump out of the tree to the next tree, and the leopard followed it, just leapt through the air and actually caught the squirrel mid-air and then landed on the ground. I mean, two or 3 meters high, landed on the ground and just stood there and stared at the camera and said, "Wasn't that cool?" So yeah, definitely they're agile enough to catch monkeys, and monkeys are not very good at protecting themselves. They've got short teeth, but they haven't really got sharp claws or anything, so it would be a fairly easy meal for a leopard. But these ones here don't look like they are going to be a meal anytime soon. They look very, very relaxed.
So we've just got over to the meerkats, and they've just started popping out. Literally, when Jandre, we had the handheld camera, and then because there were no meerkats, and then we were going to look at some other things in the area, and then the meerkats started popping out now, about 2 minutes ago. So we've just swapped over cameras, and the little alpha is the one furthest away from the camera. It is very sweet. They sometimes lean on that branch going across there. So I think our timing is very, very good. The pups are going to be probably coming out in the next half an hour or so, 40 minutes maybe a little bit sooner. It is so calm and so warm here today. We're now probably sitting at 10 degrees. It is a fantastic morning. But not only do we have meerkats, in the distance, there's some giraffe as well. George has asked, do other animals share these burrows with meerkats? 100%. And Jandre and I were chatting about it on the way up here. We were actually talking about monitor lizards, or in South Africa we know them as legavans. They're called rock monitor lizards, and they will often stay down some of these burrows. So the thing is, you get a lot of animals that the meerkats detest, and it's a very, very serious threat to them, that will take up residence in some of these burrows, particularly to overwinter. And then it's not normally a big threat to meerkats because they're going to be super inactive. Things like puff adders, cobras, monitor lizards, those kind of things. So as long as it's like deep in the heart of winter where we are now, they wouldn't pose too much of a threat to meerkats. But certainly in the summer months, and if the meerkats got little pups in the summer months and those animals are very active, there's not going to be cohabiting going on there. It's going to be predation full on. But other than that, you get things like yellow mongoose that'll stay down burrows like this. Cape ground squirrels, they'll also reside in holes like this. I've seen Cape foxes, those beautiful little foxes that we've been seeing on some of our drives. They will actually take up residence in an area adjacent to where the meerkats are, and it's kind of like this easy or uneasy truce between them. A Cape fox wouldn't be above grabbing a meerkat pup. But again, if there aren't pups in the mix, they can actually co-inhabit. But not, when I say co-inhabit, it's not down the same actual burrow. So we'd rather be talking about a burrow system. So this system, there's probably 22 burrows, different burrows over here, maybe one or two more. So you might get squirrels and mongoose down one of the holes there, and the meerkats are in some of the other holes. So, but within the burrow system, you can get different things co-inhabiting. And then, of course, things like ant-eating chats that'll go down. They'll sometimes nest in the roofs of these tunnels, normally in bigger holes. But there's lots of things that use these burrows. Look at those giraffe you got this giraffe. Silas just asked a good question. They're like, why are they called meerkats? They're not cats. And that's always a challenging thing. So it actually stems from a name of of an ape in Asia. Excuse me, the Dutch word for an ape in Asia that actually resides close to lakes and rivers, and that's what all the literature says. And it's an old Dutch word for this ape. So I'm more interested in, well, how did they link that name of an ape to this creature that lives on these semi-arid savannas of Africa? Is there any kind of resemblance? Wow, I would be quite surprised if there is, but there may be. But that's the origin of the etymology of that name. And like I say, the etymology of names is always fascinating, because very often there's no clear link to these things. And there are some easy ones now, black and white rhino, and talking about the mouth and that kind of thing. But very often these names are very, very obscure, kind of lost in the mists of time. But so we got some giraffe down here. There's oryx feeding down the bottom over here. So it's a beautiful morning. Eh? Oh, and I've just got to put this out here, is on our wildcat search, Veronique, our meerkat habituator, unfortunately we had our radio off because we needed to have it off for various reasons. That is I really, really, really want to try see with all of you, because it's a very, very special one. Yes, this is gorgeous temperature now, eh? Okay, so Veronique actually, meerkat habituator, sorry, I lost you there, so apologies for that. But she saw an African wildcat this morning, and she did radio me. So our radio is off. We needed to have it off. Occasionally we have to do that, and so it doesn't interfere with the comms. But at least we know that there is activity on the wildcat front. We are determined. We are going to find one for you. I can't say when. Maybe at the end of next year or the year after, but we'll keep looking for one. No, we'll get one. It's just a matter of spending the time out there, being positive about it, and just putting in the legwork. We'll get them. We'll get them. Look how cute these meerkats are. Yeah. And these pups are going to be out very, very, very soon, I think. With the fact that there's no or barely any wind this morning, it's super calm. These conditions are ideal for the pups to come out. So I think it's going to be really exciting in the next couple of minutes.
Welcome back, everyone, again. So we lost that other lioness. She was by herself. Now come across to the rest of the pride of the Bayala Pride, which is very good. As you can see, like three of the Sabarat males just looking around. They're all moving, trying to communicate each other so they can join up again. It looks like they've been feeding something if you look at their bellies. Wow, look at this lovely morning, sunshine, slightly a bit of wind blowing, a little cool as well. Wow, look at this young mother just looking around. He's trying to find the mom, but the mom right behind us. Yeah, you can see the bellies are much full. And they're all over the place around. They think they were trying to hunt again, because there's some impala hanging all over the place. Wow, look at this lovely walk. Wow, the mom trying to call everyone together. Yeah. Wow, look at this. The bellies are very full. And you can see they haven't cleaned themselves yet. they're still a little bit dark color because of the been feeding. Clearly you can see that little mane they've been putting up onto the carcass, whatever they had. Oh, this is awesome sighting. That I'm going to be turning around, trying to get a better view from the angle, different angle from the others. Wow, that's cool. Their mom just went out. I think they wanted to settle down a little bit down there. But let's try and catch up with them. As you can see, they're all quite mobile. The direction where they're heading, this is the this we have 6 at the moment here. This is what we got at the moment. Yeah, looks like they're going to the more rocky section. We won't be able to follow down there. We'll try maybe to loop around. Yeah, it looks like quite a bit more rock here. We'll just try to stick around, see maybe we'll get another view.
Look at these. I don't know if you remember, there was a little while ago where we kind of got frozen. Our signal, and then I got stuck with a squirrel staring at me. It was at the same tree. There are at least 5 squirrels on this tree. And they all just looked at us as we stopped. Just adorable. Ooh, Niels is another cutie. Oh. Bit of a chase going on. Oh, look at that. Stretch out the body to try and absorb as much light as possible. Get nice and warm. I'm quite sure they've got a hollow. They're living in a hollow in one of these trees. in this tree, I've seen them get into at least one of them. But I suspect there's multiple holes that they're using in this particular tree. Those old nest cavities that they use, we call those drays. They kind of line them with some soft material. In fact, that cavity I'm talking about is just underneath the squirrel, the one I've seen them go into. Hi, Momo. You'd like to know, what do these squirrels eat? Well, they're really omnivorous. They eat flowers and berries, seeds, grass even, some bark, and they'll also go after insects. But it is not their primary diet, but they will go after insects. I can tell you from my experience at camp that they love grapes.
Rex, just steamer there, but for some reason this avoca chased one of the lionesses and now they're all running. I don't know why.
I found tracks of the entire Nkuhuma Pride on Chitwa, heading north from Chitwa, so that would be reaching our southern boundary on Djuma. And they will cross straight into Torchwood, and the other vehicles have found them in Torchwood. So I'll go out foraging now. Quite a few of them have jumped off the tree and were scurrying around in the grasses below. Very, very cute. And of course there's some grooming going on because no morning is complete out here in the bush without a bit of grooming.
So we have an elephant, looks like a young bull, and we are just watching how slow and lethargic its movements are. Even these huge animals are affected by the cold. I mean, if it was 0 degrees at midnight or around about midnight, and this morning when the sun came up it was only about 4 or 5 degrees, this elephant has also just decided, you know what, today is a lazy day. And it's literally been standing in that same spot for about 15 minutes now without moving at all. Just plucking up whatever it can reach, shoving it in its mouth. It did actually eat or push over a small bush a moment ago, and then started plucking up the roots. So that's what I think what it's eating right now is a root, or at least the bark of a stem of one of these smaller bushes. Much greenery left right now, so most of the nutrients is trapped under the bark, and that's what this elephant is busy doing. Pushed a tree over, eats the stem and the bark, spits out the wood though, and then, you know, the roots as well. It's like a carrot, I suppose. Lots of the waters and things are trapped in those roots. Watch, it's going to use its foot. See that? Watch this. Look what it's doing. Using its heel, very strong muscles, to pluck and pull roots and snap them up so that it can collect it just like that. And they chew on it, and then they spit it out. It's like sugar cane. I don't know if any of you have eaten sugar cane before. There's that hard outer layer, very sugary juice. You spit that out. And that's exactly what this elephant is doing. Just chews it a little bit, spits out what it doesn't want. It's going to use its heel again. Oh, very, very strong. So we just sat quietly listening to this elephant. I thought maybe the chewing sounds and the cracking of those roots would go onto the ambient mic. I'm not sure if you all heard that at home, but it's really, really crunchy what it's eating. It just sounds exactly like a carrot, actually, when you chew on a fresh carrot. And I love it when they're so content like this. They actually look so. This little curve to the back of the mouth there that just sort of comes up, and it really gives them this smiley sort of look. There's another elephant behind us, a bit further away, but it's also part of this sort of small group of males. We call them an askari group of males. Lee has asked how elephants are so big if they only eat grass. Well, I suppose if you eat enough grass, you can grow pretty big. And they eat about 300 kilograms of vegetation, you know, a very big elephant. So, you know, you eat that much food, you're gonna grow pretty big. It's also genetic. I mean, it's how they've adapted to survive. It's their niche that they fulfill. You know, many animals eat all sorts of different things, and elephants are able to even push over trees and do all sorts of other very, very magnificently powerful things. You know, pushing over a whole tree is not easy. All right, we're going to send you over to Djuma right now and see what they're up to.
Thanks, Mike. Welcome back to Djuma. Well, looks like we've got a little sparrowhawk there, everybody. We pulled up to Treehouse Watering Hole to have a cup of coffee, as is our wont at this time of day. And just spotted this very white chest of a bird. Now it looks to be a little sparrowhawk with the yellow feet and the yellow cere. And hey, look how his perching with one foot elevated. Very efficient hunters. Sit there watching, and when it sees, the last couple of days I've been talking about birds coming down to watering holes to drink. If it sees birds come down and maybe one or two being a little bit lackadaisical, it can fly very quickly in pursuit and smash them. Very active predator. Really quite peaceful here this morning. Majority of birds do have a preening gland. I don't think penguins do. I'm not sure about penguins. And I don't think cormorants, possibly darters as well. The preening gland is obviously filled with water-insoluble oil, which is designed to keep certain birds buoyant, also to keep birds from getting wet. So it's why we see cormorants often after very deep diving having the need to stand on a branch and open their wings to dry their feathers so they're able to fly. Obviously, being buoyant and swimming deep down doesn't really benefit yourself. So I'm not certain about what other birds possibly don't have, but the majority of birds most certainly do. Because have you ever had a down feather pillow and gotten it wet? It takes a very long time for it to dry. And birds can't quite afford to get their feathers completely wet. They get sick, especially if it gets cold. So that oil is to keep the water off. There's also some microbiological components to preen oil. There we go. Now we'll be able to see if it is. Oh, it's not a little sparrowhawk. I didn't see the 3 tips on the bottom. There we go. Could be a juvenile of something else. Got a better view at it now. But as it turned around, did you notice it did not have white spots on the bum, which is indicative of the little sparrowhawk. It's got 3. So it could be a juvenile. It is quite tricky sometimes with these acipitous species to identify exactly who's who when they're younger. I'll have a little look. You didn't see white spots, did you, Beeks? No. I didn't. But Peaches, you want to know what sparrowhawks eat? Well, the majority of them feed on small birds, possibly even small rodents. Most of them rodents, bats, even lizards. They can even go as small as insects. But the sparrowhawk kills birds up to the size of a dove, which is quite a big size if you think about it. They only weigh about 74 grams, 106 grams, the female. So they're not very, very big birds. I'm just trying to have a look now. I think it might have actually been an African goshawk. When it turns around, it didn't have the, what do you call it, that white rump. Yeah, I think it might have been an African goshawk. They're very similar. It's lacking a lot of the banding on the chest, though. But the goshawk, African goshawk, very similar. Also feeding on a very similar sort of range of food substances. Birds, bats, small mammals, reptiles, and even wonderful insects.
Oh my word. Yes, you got... This is ridiculously gorgeous and cute. This is just like, okay, I'm just putting it out there. No, you can't have a meerkat, everyone. Okay, I'm keeping these for myself. No, just look at that. And they have literally just popped out. It was probably 30 seconds, not even 20 seconds before we came on here. So this is fantastic, man. Oh my word. That is cuteness overload on every single level. So this is the interesting thing here. So I was not expecting them at this age, which is 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks. I was not expecting them to actually go yet out foraging with the adults. Well, certainly not far away from the burrows. Yesterday afternoon, Veronique says they were about 700 meters away from the burrows with the pups. So that is pretty cool. And this is the thing, so you go sit down, you read the literature, and this is the thing. If you're going to be trying to understand an animal, there's no substitute whatsoever for on-the-ground observation. And we see this time and time and time again. You want to learn about meerkats, or you want to learn about white rhino, or you want to learn about a giraffe, or whatever. So you pick up a book and you read something, and then it becomes gospel. So, if you're going to learn about meerkats, there's no substitute for observation. But if you're going to be reading stuff, get one book, get another book, get another book, get another book, Google it, talk to other people, start building up a data set, and you'll actually be very surprised just how much variation there is within the literature that is available on whatever species you're looking at. So that was a really nice example. At this age, typically people would say, and literature would say, they wouldn't be out actually foraging yet, like far away from the burrow, certainly not that distance. And here they were far miles away from the burrow, and but actually not, I suppose to quantify that, they're not actually foraging for themselves. So at this age, these little meerkats are not going to be hauling out scorpions and geckos and beating up snakes, this kind of thing that they're leaving to the adults for the moment. James has just asked a very good question. The question from James is this: would there be any hierarchy amongst the pups? And definitely not at this stage. And, they're still tiny. That will come over time. You may find, and because remember, they're all from the same female. So that rules out on a group this size. We've chatted about it very briefly before, where if you've got a large group of meerkats, you can get 20, 30, 40, and you can get multiple females having litters at the same time. Then there would be potentially a very, very distinct thing of saying, well, okay, there's an alpha female, and her pups will be the dominant ones in the group. Excuse me. But on a group like this, where it's only one female that has had the pups, very different story. So they'll grow up with their own little personalities, and that'll come out over the coming weeks. You'll see that'll develop, and then you may get a slight bit of dominance between them, but certainly not at this stage of the game. Oh wow, this is just absolutely adorable. So Gendre is actually crying there. Are you okay, Gendre? Neva has asked also a great question. Yes, I'm loving these good questions. Neva has asked, will the pup suckle from the mom as well as the babysitter? No, it'll only be the mother, and then particularly when they're fast asleep during the day. When they were still very, very, very small, they would be sleeping for most of the day anyway, and then doing a lot of suckling during the course of the evening, and that when the mothers return from a day's foraging. And again, that comes back down to this thing of energy conservation. Down these burrow systems, they are snug and toasty and warm. There's not a huge amount of risk, certainly in terms of temperature gradients down there. These burrows are incredibly stable from a temperature perspective, and I can share some really interesting data with you later during the day on that, if any of you are interested. It was done on larger burrow systems, not these tiny little ones, but it'll give you a really good example. I'll have to get my drawing skills out again just now, which are shocking, but it'll be fun anyway. And we can have a look at that. Oh, I got sidetracked there. I don't know what the original thing was there. Oh, the suckling, yeah. So Slow-Mo has commented saying, it looks like they've grown since yesterday. And you know what? I can tell you 100% they would have. I can't see it physically, but every single day these pups are growing. otherwise they wouldn't become adults. It's like the curious case of Benjamin Meerkat. But yeah, they'll definitely be growing bigger and bigger by the day. Yes, this is just adorable on every level. And I'm so glad we're able to share this with everyone. I mean, this is what we've been building to. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been hoping for. And, we've also, this is all, think about it, in the face of goshawks, in the face of wildcats, jackal. We've seen jackals going right past the burrows here with you. There's martial eagles. There's snakes. Remember when we first started out with that other group, the horses, before the badger got them? There's a honey badger that could whack these meerkats. There's the puff adders. There's cobras. There's any number of threats that these little guys still face, and yet they've made it this far. Okay, it's still early days. I don't want to jinx it, but it's just patience, perseverance, time does wonders if you're in the outdoors. Oh man, what a day. So I just need to wipe those tears of joy away from Gendre's eyes again. Are you okay, Gendre? Jim has asked, is 5 a common number for a litter? Absolutely, yeah. That's a kind of a slap bang in the standard range. They can have more, and they can have a lot less. I've seen litters of 2, but then you get 7, 8 as well. So 5 is a good number. Now again, and I don't want to jinx these things, and I'm hoping against hope, but this is still early days. If you think, what's today, the 17th? Okay, so these pups were born on the 18th of June, so they are now just literally a day shy of 1 month old. So they're not even 4 weeks old yet, and they've still got a long way to go before we can safely say, listen, yeah, they're all going to survive and they're going to grow up and live happily ever after. There's eagles, there's snakes, there's other meerkats, there's honey badgers. I mean, if a honey badger gets into a burrow system like this with pups at this age, it's game over. I mean, there's no question. But what if it's a really cute honey badger with a tiny little cub? Then who do we vote for? The dilemmas of life. I know where my money would lie, but I can't. I can't say that out loud, I'm afraid.
Dylan, where is your mind this morning? I must ask. Well, I've just stopped at Treehouse Watering Hole. Still everybody listening to the wonderful birds. There's some greenwood hoopoes going crazy. There's some lilac-breasted rollers doing the roll, which is a really wonderful one. I'm just sitting here on a log by the watering hole, just reflecting on the day. Trishala just drove past to tell us what wonderful lion tracks she had on Chitwa. But the Nkuhumas have been found on Torchwood. So she was quite happy to follow the tracks, but obviously she couldn't go there. But that's all right. We're just reflecting on the day. It's such a beautiful morning. Can you hear these birds, BK? The wood hoopoes, they're calling. The Hlegamafazi, the cackling woman. Now, the group of them come together, and it's like 2 different soccer teams. But one group, another group, they come together and they do it sort of like a war cry, like a my team's better than your team sort of thing. We call it allomimetic behavior, whereby they come together and they make a lot of noise and they dance up and down, And this group shows how strong they are versus that group. It's very similar to watching English football or German football these days, where the guys have a fence between and they have their their flags and they're going me, me, or singing those war cry songs. It's very, very cool, and it's my territory versus your territory. And it's a bonding, it makes us feel good when we stand up together. I know whenever South Africa plays rugby or any sport, we stand there arm to arm like that and we sing our national anthem. It's a similar sort of thing. We bond. We feel more of a unit afterwards. And there's no better way of doing an anthem and then going out and battling against the next team. It really is something that really strengthens human society. And it's something that the babblers and especially the wood hoopers are very, very common for doing. I love listening. And that noise as well, as I said, cackling woman. It's a Shangaan word and a Zulu word. Hlega mafazi and hlega bafazi. Very, very similar. And it basically translates as I didn't make it up, just translating it as I'm told. Orange-breasted bushshrike. Oxpeckers has landed down here next to me. Okay, well, I'm going to sit here a while longer and enjoy a spot of birding.
Green woodhoopers do chatter quite a lot. They kind of sound like arrow-marked babblers, low-key babbling. This lilac-breasted roller, who has a partner that was not too far away, it's actually in the marula behind it. They sound also a bit, considering how beautiful they look, their sound is a bit less than that. Just a tiny bit. Hopefully it'll call for us again, so you'll be able to hear. It sounds like it's got something stuck in its throat, mixed with a bit of a squawk. Squawk. I'm bad at it, but hopefully it will show us instead of me making the sound for you. There was an interesting interaction though. So there are two lilac-breasted rollers sitting here. And then the one that flew off was actually having a fight with a yellow-billed hornbill mid-air. There's the use of that beak again to clean. Leap and you say such a fluffy bird, isn't it just? And go give it a cuddle. Oh, you like the word cuddle? That was it's called. It's like, it kind of reminds me of a buffalo. If there was a bird buffalo, that doesn't come out right. If there was a bird version of a buffalo, in terms of sound, it'd be a lilac-breasted roller. I know you're hungry, Rebecca, but buffalo wings, that's what Rebecca said to my ear now. And now you're making me hungry. Could be this roller's nickname. I was hoping that the other one would come back and sit here too. Hi, Kathy. You'd like to know if I know if this if this bird is male or female? I don't know. There's not much difference between the male and the female. In fact, they're pretty much the same in terms of coloration. The only difference is that the males or the females are a little bit larger. And that's just negligible. That seems to be a pretty common thing with birds. And the streamers, which are those long parts at the tail, you can just see an edge of it there. Those streamers tend to be longer in males than females. Again, just by a tiny bit. So unless you have two of them together, it's very difficult to tell. Give us a good call. No, not listening to me today. Well, at least it's sitting very well. So often we have sightings with birds, and as quickly as we get them, they're gone just as fast. Chatter, you'd like to know if they're monogamous. They are. And you want to know if that is one of the reasons that they may have both be so vibrantly colored. That could be, you know, with birds we've always said, or one of the common ideas is that sexual competition is what creates the vibrant colors in males while we have the drab females. Well, like Chatter was saying, when animals are monogamous, or birds particularly when they're monogamous and there isn't a great need for competition for sexual partners, then they can both be very similarly colored. And yes, these birds are monogamous. Very, very... Oh, that was a yawn. That was just gorgeous. And off it goes. And we are going to go down to the hyena den.
I'm just absolutely blown away by what we're seeing here. I don't care how common meerkats are in areas, I don't care how often people see them. It is just such an incredible privilege to be able to sit here with these meerkats and view them like this. This is just unreal. So Carla has asked, how deep are the burrows and can they collapse? So these burrows don't go very deep. They can go down to about 1 meter, but normally it's a little bit less than that. And yes, they can collapse. Although it's not typical of these burrows to collapse, but it will happen over time. So I was just having a good chuckle. So I don't know, did you see that or not? Okay, so we just missed the meerkat that was starting to groom itself, and he lost his balance and fell over completely. So it was very funny. But yeah, so these burrows can collapse. Occasionally, it's not normal though. The top layer of sand is very, very soft. And you can see as they walk around on those mounds, how the sand shifts around. So it is soft. But if you go down to about 10-15 centimeters below the surface, it's actually very firm. It's very compact. So this sand is what we call amorphic. In other words, it doesn't have a set structure to it. Certainly not at these levels where we are. So it's a deep sand. And because it doesn't have the structure, it actually settles very, very, very tightly onto itself. And so the sand is actually fairly compact underneath here. And that's why they're actually able to dig burrows in the first place. And but these burrows can last for years and years and years and years. We've got burrows here that I know of like burrow systems and I'm not talking about these large aardvark and porcupine burrows that we've seen over time. I'm talking about meerkat burrow systems that have been maintained for at least 13 years. So yeah, geez, I mean, but then we've had, and I think we touched on it yesterday as well, or the day before. We've had herds of eland, these huge antelope. The bulls are getting 700 to 800 kilograms. We've had a herd of 200-300 eland moving over a burrow system like this in the course of an evening, and just trampling it into smithereens, like literally just nothing there. It's just like trampled sand. That's all you see. And so yeah, these burrows can collapse, and they can get dug out by other things enlarged. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this burrow system that we're looking at here will be maintained in exactly this state as well.
Well, very good. Thanks, Dylan. Back to us here. We've managed to catch up with our warriors, the green wood hoopoes. And they're doing a little bit of grooming right now. They're doing some aloe grooming. So another benefit of being in a group is you can scratch those hard to reach places. And you can reach a fair amount of those places on your own body, but I mean, who doesn't like a head scratch? Right into the armpit. They were doing that allomimetic behavior before when we arrived, so hoping they're going to do it again. They are regarded as cooperative breeders, this species, which means they assist each other in the rearing of a chick. They help with food provision, territorial defense. You tell those other birds. Holding a leaf. Here we go. Have my leaf. Such wonderful sounds, aren't they? Probably see the green sheen on the feathers. They used to be known as the red-billed wood hoopoo. Hello, Kathy. I don't actually know how long their tail feathers are. They're pretty long, though, in comparison to the body. I don't have a measurement. I can probably look up a quick measurement for you. Quite often will give you types of measurements on birds. So offhand, I'm afraid I don't know. see if it's got it here. So the birds are on average 33 centimeters, but in this this app of mine, it doesn't give you the exact length. I'm sure in the really big roberts, it's got all of the measurements, but I'm not sure. Half of the body about, so you could almost say it's close to 15 centimeters. Ziggy, that's a great question, because they look so mean when they shake forward. There we go. They're going to do it now. I think the effort they put in forces them to lift their chest, and they swing. It might help them with some acoustics, but it is actually a characteristic feature. When you first start trying to discern the difference between arrow-marked babblers and the wood hoopers, the babblers make a similar sort of sound, but it's more of a cackling, like jack, 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 jack sound, where this one, you can actually hear the movement of the body up and down, up and down. And when you start learning it, they sound very similar, but you can actually start hearing them moving, how that they sort of throw that sound into the sky rather than just cackling it out of the mouth. But why they do it? Why? Not really sure. It possibly helps with some acoustics, but right now they are giving each other a thorough going over.
Right, so another animal that was shaking its booty a second ago was this warthog, as it was wending its way down towards the water. Now, there's a whole bunch of impala coming down to drink, and I'm sure that the warthogs have... Oh, look at that warthog. It's actually walking along a pathway elephants have made in the past. All the animals use the same paths. It's just the easiest. It's often make the pathways for them. And this is a pair of warthogs that we know quite well. This is one of the ones that's very relaxed around our camp. And the second one, and walking just behind it, I think, is called Listen Linda, because she's only got one ear. So she does have to listen quite carefully. They walk down. There's a monkey also drinking. Oh, there's lots of animals. We've got 4 different species of mammals busy right now drinking at the water's edge. There's even a duiker a moment ago that was drinking, which is quite unusual because we don't often see them drinking, to be honest. They do get lots of the moisture they need from the leaves and branches and stuff that they eat. And there's the wonderful, calm bushveld scene at this waterhole. Some beautiful brown-crowned chagras calling in the background. So you see, what often happens is, as soon as one animal comes down to the water, all the rest start to come down as well, because they know. Chances are there's no predators around right now. It's getting warmer, so of course the predators will start probably resting. We followed lion tracks the whole morning. Fortunately, we couldn't find them. We went into a drainage line somewhere. We just couldn't quite find out where they came out. The monkeys drinking from the puddles. They're very wary of the water, going too close to the water, because of course there can be crocodiles. I don't think there are any crocodiles in this dam, but they still have to be very careful. There was a blacksmith lapwing bird that just walked behind them as well. Very, very nice. See how tiny that monkey is at the back there? It's a youngster. And there's one going to climb. See those 2 youngsters moving away now? Often very playful. You'll see them often rolling and tumbling and playing with each other. And these monkeys are great. You know, sometimes monkeys can be a real nuisance in camps. You know, they often try to make a mockery of the guides and the security staff as they steal sugar and fruits and all sorts of other things. But these particular ones are quite relaxed, quite chilled with us. They never seem to steal anything, which is great. We don't want the monkeys to start stealing. Another warthog's come down to drink. So you see the one walking at the back there? Only one ear. Hello, Linda. Also, only one set of warts on the female warthog. So there's one set of warts down near the snout, and there's no warts next to the eyes. So this is quite typical. Females have only one set of warts because they don't have to fight for territories. They just use their their knobbly noses to dig up roots and bits of shoots and things. The impala still fluffed up their fur. They are still very cold. You know, we talked about it, the piloerection, when the hairs stand up to trap air against their body to keep warm. There's a bit of mud there where those monkeys are. I wonder if the warthogs will go and bathe there. They often like to mud wallow. It's perhaps a bit, but they will eventually. They love mud wallowing. They've got lots of exposed skin, so lots of bitey bugs can get them. Of course, as it gets warmer, they'll want the mud as a sunscreen. Well, all the animals are starting to move away from the water, so we'll hang around and see what else comes down.
Well, these animals are starting to move into the sunlight. Everybody trying to get as warm as possible. Definitely has warmed up quite a bit now, and the dwarf mongoose that you see here will be out foraging. There's been some drongos around, some hornbills as well, as they all start to look for tiny little insects, other invertebrates. Oh, there was a small call. Did you hear that? Wow, Game Drive Radio has a lot of talking today. Sorry for the beeping, everyone. Yes, you too, Mongoose. I apologize for the beeping around your mound. Aren't those just the cutest faces? So they're at the old hyena den. They've taken over. We've seen them here before. And I did swing past our current hyena den. It's not too far from here. Lots of tracks all around. There's even a few sticks that have been chewed, some hollows that are dug out where the adults lie. It's definitely active, but all the tracks that I saw were heading away from the den. So again, just about catching that right moment when they'll be out and about. I think first thing this afternoon we'll go check there, because it'll be nice and warm. Angie, you'd like to know if mongoose eats snakes. They certainly can, and they certainly will, if they get the opportunity to. Mongoose have a remarkable ability that they share with lots of small animals that eat snakes. That includes honey badgers, mongoose of all kinds, even meerkats. Small carnivores, and also with squirrels, ground squirrels more so, in that they can tolerate a certain amount of venom, of snake venom. And that's because snake venom is a very specific material, and that's why it can be so potent. And it's created from things that already exist in the body, like saliva, and it's modified to be very specific in what it does. But in order for it to be specific, it attaches to particular parts of a cell. And when it comes to these animals that seem to not be affected as much by venom, the parts that venom attach to or bind to on cells, it has to kind of bind to all of them to have the full effect. But certain receptor sites on the cells of these animals that are not affected as badly by venom seem to be differently shaped, so that the venom doesn't attach in the way that it can to an animal that doesn't have these oddly shaped receptors. But not all of them are oddly shaped, which is why they'll still have some effect. Maybe they will be a little lethargic. Maybe they'll have to sleep it off. But it does not have the lethal effect, or at least in the type of dose that you would get if you were trying to either defend yourself or have a strategy for attacking and eating it. Whereas, say, if the snake was hunting you, the dosage might be a little high. And snakes can control how much venom they inject into an animal. Venom is expensive biologically. Oh, look at them all trailing in. So sometimes a snake can bite and not secrete any venom, or not inject any venom. Other times it can inject large loads of venom, not denim, as I was about to say. I'm imagining a snake in denim. What? That's the best thing you've heard all day, Mongoose? I suppose it is. Glad to have given you that pleasure of imagining a snake with denim. The Zanzibarian. You'd like to know if mongoose and meerkats get along, or are they mortal enemies? In the Kalahari, where the meerkats are, I don't think you get dwarf mongoose. You do get yellow mongoose, and well, I'm not even sure if you get banded. You get when I was there, I saw yellow mongoose, slender mongoose, and both of those types don't really live in these gregarious groups like meerkats do, and dwarf mongoose do, and banded mongoose do. So I can't say that I've seen an interaction between them, but I'm sure that Dylan will have some insight on that. I mean, they're both fiercely territorial, but it comes down to whether they would actually ever get to interact. I can still hear faint squeaks. Rebecca, if you're trying to talk to me, because I hear your beeps, I can't hear a thing. One, two, three, four, five. They all just keep pouring out of that little crevice, and I am about to sneeze, and it's probably going to scare them. Hold it in, Shala, hold it in. I think I might have heard all of your bless yous before I sneezed, and then it went away. There it is. But much more squeaky. Well, the kahumas seem to be moving a little bit south, which might be good for us this afternoon. They may end up back in Chitwa. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow, they sound amazing. I think I might have lost Rebecca, everybody. Hurrah! I have Rebecca back. Crystal, you'd like to know what is the lifespan of the species? Considering how small they are, they can live for quite a long time, even up to 18 years. And that says quite a lot. Banded mongoose, similar age bracket, just a little bit less, about 12, 14 years. They have such intricate groups or businesses, as they're called. Listen to that. Highly intelligent, they communicate very well in those squeaks, they're territorial. They live in these family groups. They're fast and nimble. And their diet ranges quite widely. So that would bode well for their longevity. Sophie, you'd like to know if they forage in groups. So what they do is they'll have a territory that's basically about 1 kilometer squared, which is not very big. And then within that, they have different termite mounds that they'll stay at each night. They usually change it up. And they'll all go to bed, or all go to sleep in that one termite mound. But when they wake up, they'll sun for a little bit. And then within that radius, or within that area of 1 kilometer squared or so, they'll go out foraging. Sometimes you'll get a lone one, but they will never be more than maybe 20 meters away from each other. So you can call that foraging in a group, but it's not as if they go out in a gang. They'll just all walk around the general area, always in contact with each other though. You may look and just see one mongoose, but there will definitely be others around. They'll always be able to hear each other. Very close-knit. Jerry, you'd like to know if they choose a den site that's close to a water source. Not necessarily. A lot of their liquid can come from the prey that they eat, because remember they are carnivores. So they don't necessarily look for a place that has water. Of course they will need to drink. But good resources for them would include things like a good mound, which they can use as a home that gets lots of sunlight, because that's important for them to be able to get warm. Protected from the cold would be a good one. Something that has lots of grasses around where you could find and flush out insects. Those would be the types of things that they would look for. I saw a few youngsters in here, or smaller ones, and they were also out busy foraging. These are the last guys sunning themselves before they too go out looking for breakfast.
Forage. It's almost about time for us to forage too. Talk of food gets us all quite excited in the morning. We had the most wonderful bird party there, everybody. Had a bearded woodpecker, common scimitar-bill, the wood hoopoes joined in. The arrowmark babblers I was talking about before, they are rocked up. I even saw a penduline tit, which I thought was quite incredible. I don't think I've identified a penduline tit here yet. On Djuma anyway. I think I'm going to go... let's go that way, Beaks, eh? I'm feeling that little tingling in the tummy. Rexon was on our southern boundary before, and he called it some leopard tracks, but I haven't found them coming in. But, you know, sometimes we do miss these things. So we drive along some familiar roads and see. There's a wonderful little bird party. Southern black tit as well. There was some chagras and some chin spot battises. Wonderful. Now, a bird party, everyone, it doesn't mean that there's cocktails and confetti and all that sort of thing. Basically just means you get a whole lot of birds that benefit from each other by being in a group. Some are able to go into the branch of the tree and peck and access insects in the wood. Some are able to run through the tree and glean insects off. And then you get other birds that are opportunistic, that hang around on the outside, trying to pick up any insects that might fly away from that central piece. And when you do find a bird party, that's when you can do some phenomenal birding.
Talking about birds and bird parties, so have a look at this particular waterhole that we are at now. On the right here, there's quite a few doves that are coming down to drink. They all see there's a grey heron, so this big bird that you can see right in almost like the bottom part of the screen with a yellow beak, bit of black stripe around the eyes. But look at all the doves that are coming in to have a drink. Now what's going to be amazing though is, so with this waterhole there's actually a giraffe here as well. But with that giraffe, there's also a herd of elephants that are on their way. We can hear the branches breaking in the back, so I'm sure they're going to come down and drink. So if we stay here for maybe the next 10, 15 minutes, we'll be really rewarded with something. But you can have a look, big, beautiful male giraffe. I don't know if he's already gone for a drink. When we got here, he was already standing where he's standing now. So we'll have to spend some time and see. Imagine if he does decide to come down and have a drink, how beautiful that would be. Now it does look like he's ruminating. See how he's just chewing, but he's not really feeding off any leaves or anything. So like any animal with a 4-chamber stomach, they'll have to bring it up, chew it, like break it down and then swallow it again. Very similar to domestic cows, like the 4 different stomachs or chambers within the stomach. But just try and listen to all the birds. Striped horse, with especially doves, I've noticed that they do drink quite a bit, and with most birds probably have to drink at least once a day. I know there are some birds, I mean those that don't necessarily, that occur in more of these arid areas, that won't necessarily be able to go to water, but I think it all depends on the type of bird. But most, I would say, safe to say, most birds that are often seen around a waterhole, they'll be the ones that have to drink at least once a day. But it's incredible. We can hear the crested francolin calling. We can hear Natal spurfowls in the back. There's all these grey go-away birds. And then, of course, all these doves. Now, there's a combination of a few. Most of them would probably be the laughing dove, the one with a bit of a reddish chest. And, of course, then the one with, like it looks like a black band around the neck. It's the Cape turtle dove. Or the new name for it is now the ringneck dove. All you can hear is just birds going crazy. You can just hear their wings flapping. Some are coming down. You can hear the doves. You can hear the francolins. Just listen to the noise. asleep, and I'm not too sure what these birds will be talking about. I think maybe they're just trying to just tell one another where they are exactly. I'm sure like maybe some of the pairs have moved away from one another. Now it's just calling each other back. It could be just a nice early, because it's still early part of the morning, just maybe letting everyone else know their presence, that they are here. But often, especially with birds, as soon as there's a lot of them that goes down to water, it almost encourages the others to go as well, because then they know there's safety in numbers. Because sometimes if it's just one by themselves, they are a little bit wary of what's going on around the water, and any bit of movement might spook them and they'll fly off. But as soon as there's a larger number, they feel a little bit more confident. It's just so beautiful. And just imagine now, we are looking at all these birds flying up. We are looking at the giraffe, this grey heron in the middle of the screen. He's probably just looking to see if there's any movement. Now, often this time of the year, when the water starts drying up, there's quite a lot of little catfish around. And he'll slowly move, and sometimes just move his feet to see if he can disturb anything. And as soon as there's movement, of course, he'll use that sharp beak, dart into the water, grab it, and of course just break it down and then eat it from there. But I'm just hoping, imagine we have the scene with the heron, the giraffe, the doves, the grey go-away birds, the lapwings, and we have that whole herd of elephants coming down into the water to drink. Because I can just imagine the scene from here. As soon as those elephants start making their way, the giraffe might slowly start moving off, and those elephants, as they get closer, they might start picking up their pace. There's actually two spurfowl that just came down in front of us. But with giraffe, they are, with one of the things they might be afraid of is especially lions. Like often I've seen is if there's lions that move into an area, of course the giraffe will move away. Cheetah, leopard, wild dogs, not necessarily. Like you'll see a big giraffe like this, might just stare at them, but not just necessarily run away from that. If there's a big pride of lions, this giraffe will definitely move away. The other thing that this male could be scared of is often a bigger male that's stronger and a better fighter, and he might be a little bit more wary of that. So I'm just going to try and see if we're going to position ourselves a little bit better, because there's some francolin that are just in front of us right here. I think for now I'm just going to try and see if we can get another position on the vehicle, because I think it is a bit difficult from our view here, but we'll try and do that.
Look at this. This is one of the birds that I really, really like. I don't get to put them on camera very often, but it is a scimitar bull. It's not the best for you, I know, but I really, really like it. They have these really slender, decurved bills that is just awesome. And that's great for catching insects and prying out larvae, and also looking for, or occasionally, delving into some nectar. Well, at least it's sat for us long enough for you to see it, right? So I am going to now just swing past the pan, see if there's something of interest there. I'll let you know if I find something.
Thanks, Trish. Well done. You got a scimitar bull. So it's nice to see the comparison between the scimitar bull and the green wood hoopoe, which had the red beak. So we got a wonderful track over here in the sand, everybody. Can you see that there's some toes over there? Beaks, you got it. Some toes. And there's a whole lot of little pads at the back here, which are called proximal pads. And the foot is from there to there. Always important to do some form of measurement so that you can figure out how big it is. This knife of mine is 10 centimeters. So it doesn't extend to the 10, but if you look clearly in there, there's actually some claws as well. So lots of pads, toes, and if you can look clearly, if you follow my line here, Beaks, can you see these lines here? Now those are the little things that drag on the bottom. There's a wonderful track of a porcupine, and he's heading in that direction. And the porcupines are shuffling. Whenever they walk, they shuffle. So to try and compare this with a honey badger is always interesting. First of all, seeing these quill marks in the soil make it very easy to know that it's a porcupine. But what you should always do if you have a porcupine or a honey badger is go and circle 3 tracks. You've got 1, 2, and then 3 over here. And try and draw a line through the middle. So this is the right foot to the right foot. Can you see how it does not touch the left foot at all? Because porcupines, they shuffle. Whereas a honey badger, when they are moving, they're generally moving very, very quickly. If they move a bit slower, you can maybe see them change that sort of step. But honey badgers would basically be on a line like that, because when they're moving quickly, they run on a line. So the honey badger would actually be a track there, there, and over there, because they move. Porcupine's just a small little guy shuffling. He's in no rush to get anywhere. He's got quills on his back to protect him. Now, this is really, really nice to see. So obviously they're active at night, and this guy would have been walking here at some point in the early morning or at night time. Hello, Momo. I don't know if a hedgehog is a rodent, so I don't think so. I don't think they're rodents. I think they're in a different group altogether. But a porcupine is a rodent, so they've got teeth constantly growing. And they have to keep filing those teeth down on the roots and stuff that they eat. So I think just because the defense is a similar sort of defense doesn't mean they're related. So I do not think that hedgehogs are related as far as... I need to check on the order. I'm really not too sure where the hedgehog fits in. But we're going to carry along here. Still haven't seen any leopard tracks, but we're slowly heading on home for some breakfast.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
The reflection of the giraffe in the water is it's so nice to see, because yesterday we had that wind that was blowing from the giraffe towards us. We only saw like quite a few ripples in the water. But of course, remember earlier we said there were some elephants on their way, and we thought like maybe as the show is about to close, then the elephants are going to arrive. But we've been very lucky. You will actually see them coming down through the thicket there. And it looks like quite a decent sized herd as well. How amazing would this be for them to move into the water to come and drink? Incredible is this? Look at all of them coming down just to have a drink. And imagine how long they had to move or walk in order to get down to this water for a drink. You can even see the little ones are pushing their trunk right into the water there, sucking it up and immediately blowing it into the mouth. So it must be so thirsty. There's another little baby at the back there. Just following him on, but look at that little one, even though it's so small and you can't even see the tusk. Normally you'll start seeing the tusk at around about a year old, and already very capable of drinking water. So they normally start around 5-6 months where they'll be able to drink water like that. there's actually more elephants coming down. I thought it might have been just this little family group here, but it seems to me there's at least another 6 or 7 elephants with babies coming down. There's even an impala in the midst of all these elephants, and I think that impala is, it looks like a young female that's by herself. And I think with the elephants being around, definitely feeling a lot safer than being by itself. There's a young elephant now coming down off the bank, so where the rest of where the other ones are coming in, you'll see there's a little baby. But this whole morning has been such a special morning. I mean, being able to see hyenas, being able to see like all these elephants, just being out with the beautiful sunrise. And I know there's been so many other animals seen across the different reserves. So even though it started off really slow, I think we were really lucky how it all turned out. But this is definitely going to be my highlight for the day. Just the whole herd coming down to drink like this. But for now, from all the elephants here at &Beyond in Ngala, we hope everyone will have a lovely day.